heading to the Boardwalk Honda hotline now, where you can hear the opinions of Mark Malone from NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network. You can hear at NBCSportsRadio.com. Download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Former NFL quarterback Mark Malone joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline to take a look at Week 4 of the NFL. We're reaching the quarter pole of the season, Mark, and there's already been some very interesting storylines, interesting teams, including here in Philadelphia, where we got to see the return of Carson Wentz last week, and we and you discussed him here on this show. Did he exceed your expectations of what you thought you'd see from him after all the time off?
In some ways he did, Mike. I was curious to see, how mobile he was. He worked well out of the pocket last year when he was in the middle of that MVP conversation. But what I thought separated him from most other quarterbacks is his ability to extend plays and make plays down the field of the passing game once he left the pocket. I was a little bit unsure as to how well he would look doing that, but it doesn't seem that the injury or the brace bothered him very much at all. I think a little bit rusty. I don't know that we could expect him to come back and be in a position where, he's playing at the highest level after 9 months off rehabbing from that ACL. So I think he'll get only better. I know Alshon Jeffrey has been cleared now and is back at practice. He may or may not be available for the team this week. That's going to help them to have more weapons. He is clearly the best wide receiver they have on that roster. So, I listen, I think it's a boost of energy for this Eagles football team. Not that Nick Foles didn't do a nice job. I mean, he was the Super Bowl MVP, but
right.
There was just something that was off in the first couple weeks of the season with him at quarterback, and Carson Wentz has given that team a boost, and I would expect them to continue to play at a really high level.
Yeah, it was almost, you're right. I mean, Foles, it's not like he was losing a lot of games. He was playing very well, but you can see that there's that something special. And it's hard to say, well, this guy won the Super Bowl and this guy can be better, but you can see that everybody else, they up their game when they play against the Eagles, and they've got a really tough schedule coming up. So they need those, it seems like improvising type plays, Mark, that he really brings to the table.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you draw this stuff up on the board, Mike, and everything comes out at 2.5 seconds, and this guy gets open and all that stuff. But the reality of the game itself is,
right.
Whether a guy misses an assignment or he doesn't separate at the wide receiver position, all of a sudden you as a quarterback have to start to improvise. And I think those guys, the ability to do that at a very, high level in terms of getting out of the pocket, extending the play, completing the ball, keeping drives alive, kind of separate the good quarterbacks from the great ones. And as I said last year, Carson Wentz did it probably better than just about anybody else. And I saw hints of that in his return last week, and that bodes well for the Eagles.
How about, when you played quarterback in the league and what the role the coach has? I mean, I know the game is probably a lot more intricate and maybe micromanaged now, but how about the game plan that Doug Peterson had for his quarterback kind of coming back? I don't know that he limited him, but it seemed like he kind of shortened the offense a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart thing to do. I mean, again, you can't expect him to come back after 9 months of rehab, having not played football, and be the same guy he was before he had the ACL injury. So, you try to do some things to mitigate some of the pressure. Hopefully you try to protect him a little bit. But at some point in time, Mike, here's the deal. These coaches spend 80, 100 hours a week preparing for a football game, putting all these intricate plans together. You talk about micromanaging. And then as soon as the play breaks down and he leaves the pocket, you might as well throw that stuff out the window. It's about guys being football players and being playmakers. Carson Wentz is one of those guys. And as long as he can continue to stay healthy, Alshon Jeffrey back in the lineup, he continues to stay healthy throughout the year. I think, again, they're going to play at a real high level.
Former NFL quarterback Mark Malone, NBC Sports Radio, with us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Tonight, we got a fun one, although it lost a little luster when Minnesota lost at home last week to Buffalo. How do you explain that, number one? And tonight, you got the Rams, who have been outstanding so far. A lot of people think this could be a potential NFC championship matchup.
Yeah, well, see, I think the Minnesota Vikings, and I was a bit shocked because you don't generally see this from Mike Zimmer teams, but I think they were, reading the clippings heading into that football game, and Josh Allen's going to be your quarterback, and it's just like, all we got to do is show up and, hang our clothes on the hook in the locker room and then get back on the bus, and we've got to win. And they got caught with their pants down a little bit, and I would imagine that Mike Zimmer is going to have them playing at a very high level despite the fact that it's a short turnaround and a short week. From the Rams' perspective, as good a team as you're going to find in the National Football League, I think they and Kansas City are probably the two best teams as we reach the quarter pole. but they're going to be playing without Aqib Talib tonight, without Marcus Peters, most likely, your two starting corners, on a defense that is as good as it gets in the National Football League. I'm interested to see what Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator, does in terms of trying to protect not only those two guys, but now you're going to get your probably fourth and fifth corner on the field at some point in this football game, and there are going to be some mismatches there. And I'm interested to see whether or not Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer can take advantage of that tonight.
Real quick, in the NFC East, I find this to be an interesting storyline because Detroit, many people looked at as maybe one of the worst teams. They beat the Patriots last week. Dallas has had their struggles. One of these teams is going to be 2-2, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I didn't think the Dallas Cowboys would be that good a football team, and with their offensive line issues this year, they can't get anything going with Ezekiel Elliott. They have really no what I would call top line weapons at the wide receiver position. It puts Dak Prescott in situations that are difficult given his skill set. Defensively, at times they showed real well against the football team that they play. I think it was the Giants, but I just don't think that, outside of the pass rush, Sean Lee's their best player. He continues to have injury problems. He's going to be out with a hamstring again this week. So I'm not a big Dallas fan, to be honest with you. And Detroit, you got Matthew Stafford who'll put up a bunch of yards. Defensively, I think about an average football team who played well the other night against New England. But other than that, they've got to find some balance. They finally got their first 100-yard rusher in God knows how many years the other night. But they've got to find balance in that offense. And if they can do that, I think they'll hang around. But I don't see them as a real threat in the NFC North.
And then you got the Giants at home coming off a nice Eli game against it's a very dangerous Saints team.
Yeah, the Saints defense is an issue. It always has been, but it's gotten off to a real slow start, and they're winning in shootouts.
Yeah.
Can Eli match Drew Brees? I doubt it. One of the things that I saw last week was that the ball came out on schedule and on time with Eli, and instead of holding it, that's been a problem for them a little bit. The defense played a little bit better. Listen, Eli's probably going to end up in the Hall of Fame. He's won 2 Super Bowls, but at 37 years old, I don't know that he has the skill set, which has eroded a little bit, and the arm strength to all around to the playmakers that they have on that football team. And given the problems they have on the offensive line, that exacerbates the problem a little bit. So I think there'll be a team that kind of goes up and down this year.
Mark Malone, NBC Sports Radio, 24/7 Live Sports Talk Network. Listen at NBCSportsRadio.com. Always enjoy it, Mark. We'll catch up again soon.
Mike, my pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the football.